We are super excited to welcome to the show this morning Christine Fairfield, the Executive Director, and Michael Slon, the Music Director of the Oratorio Society of Virginia. Christine, Michael, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
It's great to have you on as someone who attended the all-night vigil last year for Rachmaninoff. This is very exciting for me because it was amazing. So for those who aren't familiar with the Oratorio Society, tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you first came to be involved with the society.
You want to start? Or?
Sure, I'll start.
Okay.
I'm actually only recently involved with the Oratorio Society. I live over in the Valley in Stanton, and after the pandemic, I was reminded, or maybe it was because of the pandemic, I was reminded how much I missed singing in a really good group. And so I started looking around, and I'd heard about the Oratorio Society through mutual friends and other connections in the music scene. And so I came over and I auditioned and I checked it out. So I first started in 2021 as a new singer with the ensemble. But
fast promotion.
Fast forward. I have a music background as a singer, trained singer, and I had been working for a nonprofit school over in Harrisonburg, and I brought a skill set that has been a really good fit. So when David Perry stepped down last year, I applied for the executive director position and joined them in that capacity this fall. And I continue to also sing in the choir.
And she's very good, by the way.
They won't. You won't let it go, right? I mean, somebody says that, no matter what you're doing, you're still singing.
Yeah, that's
His last interview question was, "Will you still sing with us?"
That wasn't make or break, but it certainly is.
It was insinuated, but it wasn't.
So, yeah, to answer your question, so I came to Charlottesville 2001 when I got hired on music faculty at UVA, and so and I'm the director of choral music there. And then it was about 2011 the Oratorio Society reached out to me and said, "Would you consider being our interim director?" And then the next year I became the official music director. So it's been more than 10 years now working with this, really wonderful group of talented singers from our community.
Which is really, I think, the amazing part, is tell us about this. This has a long history, the Oratorio Society. It was founded in the 1960s.
It's over 50 years.
So over 50 years old.
Wow.
And what's kind of like the mission and how, for those who aren't familiar with it?
Well, we are a community chorus, auditioned, but totally volunteer. So our entire ensemble is made up of people from all walks of life, including a couple of high school students at the moment, which is fantastic.
Wow.
I think we have 6 decades of, so it's generational. It's quite extraordinary.
Everything from high school students to retirees and in between. School teachers, not necessarily music teachers. We have a couple of physicians, and it really runs the gamut, business owners and so on. And we share a passion for good choral music. And Michael's a fantastic leader. He makes it really fun, and rehearsals are well-paced, and we really get to do some interesting music, and we can talk more about our next concert, because it is definitely different than some of the things we've done in the past.
Yeah, tell us. Go ahead.
I was just going to add to what Christine's saying, that, as you go from the internal facing part of the group, as we look out to the community too, the idea is to carry this passion and joy that Christine's talking about into the community, so that people are transformed, and inspired by the beauty of choral music, as you were when you heard that beautiful Rachmaninoff performance last year.
It's to hear something like that is so music, and the human voice, I think, has a beauty. I mean, as someone who loves classical music, right? You definitely have your symphonies, you have your instruments, but there's a certain quality, particularly something like Rachmaninoff, when it's just the voice. There are literally no instruments in the all-night vigil other than the human voice, and that had that echoing spiritual quality. It moves you in a special way.
But you think about it. Think of all the symphonies that we know, right? And there's something about the symphonies where there's a choir. Obviously the Ninth and even Mahler's. It's just like when you get to that part, it just elevates that symphony to a different level.
Yeah.
It really does. Like we said, that human voice just adds something.
There is nothing like it. Some composers and some musicians have said all instruments aspire to the human voice because it's so beautiful and expressive.
Exactly.
That is true. That is true. So, I'm excited. Tell us about this upcoming concert. 'Cause we did last year it was one piece, but this year there's two pieces that people get to enjoy at the concert on May 5th.
So, just to frame, kind of what we do in a typical season, we always have our Christmas at the Paramount just down the street here, and that's wonderful, well attended, and that can be quite a big, diverse gathering of repertoires, right? So a lot of different pieces. And then we do our March Together in Song, which we just did last month, where we invite community singers to join us. They learn the piece on their own, then they do one-day master class and then sing with us part of the concert. Yeah.
Boy.
So maybe we'll have to get both of you next year, yeah?
You
And Nick.
don't want to hear me sing.
Well,
Trust me.
okay. Well, and then we usually are doing some kind of what we could call major works, in that later spring slot, like what you heard last year. And so this year, we're doing a program which is kind of called the Choral Mass, Old and New. And if you look at the history of music, it's interesting that the mass settings have been this kind of vessel which composers have poured their own voice into over the centuries. And you can almost trace cultural history and musical evolution if you track this, right? You listen to Palestrina, and then you listen to Bach B minor Mass, and then Mozart or Beethoven and the expansive romantic aspect. And then something like Bernstein Mass, which opened the Kennedy Center, which maybe not a mass at all, but this incredible crisis of faith piece. So what we have for this concert are two pieces, the Rossini, Petite Mass Solennelle, which is, despite the word petite, it's big. It's like there's the score. Well done, Christine. It's like an hour and a half or something. And it was the really last piece he wrote. He had left composing opera decades earlier and had taken some time away from writing music. And then late in his life, he wrote this.
Wow.
And then we're pairing that with Arvo Pärt, still very much a living composer, Estonian. And if you know his style, I told the chorus at the first rehearsal, its own way, it quiets the noise of the world. It's a very introspective, spiritual style, and the pieces could not be more different. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Yeah. Radically different.
Yeah. So I think it's a fascinating comparison of how the same text inspires
two different people,
different composers.
Different
And the Arvo Pärt, which is called Missa Syllabica, is called that because he only gave one note to each syllable. It's like Sound of Music, when Maria says one note in do, re, mi. And so it's just one note per syllable. I think Rossini might use more notes just in the Credo Fugue than Arvo Pärt used in the whole mass.
Well, they also do have that distinction. Now, does the Rossini one, that does have some instrumentation?
Yes. So his original scoring was for piano and harmonium. Just two. It was very intimate and the voices. And so we're doing it with piano and sometimes people substitute organ. And we'll be at St. Thomas Aquinas, so we'll use that organ and have a piano.
Gotcha.
Interesting. And then but Pärt's, I think, is just
organ and the chorus. But the organ's very sparse, just like 2 or 3 notes at a time. Nothing overt or showy.
So when you start Pärt's, because I started both of them and I listened to the openings, and of course you get Rossini's, which opens grandiose, and then I remember you just immediately
one voice,
are in. It's like you moved from a great massive church in Europe to a monastery, almost in a sense.
Actually,
like
that is very astute because I was once in the room with Arvo Pärt, and he's a very tall man. And he's like a monk. I mean, your monastery, he is a very quiet man. And he really, even though he isn't kind of an ordained monk, he presents like one sometimes.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
The personality comes through a little
it
bit
does.
in the music.
And I think you've mentioned before to the choir that Pärt wrote, or the style that this particular piece is in, that became sort of his signature style, is one that came out of a period of silence, of contemplative silence that he had intentionally.
This is very true. So he was a young composer, and he was also, of course, there was the challenge of Soviet repression of his music, right, being in Estonia at that time. And he actually took Christine's exactly right. A period of a number of years, I think 6 or 8 years, he would just study Renaissance and medieval music and didn't write much. And then in about 76, or this piece is from 1977, he came out with this new style that now is in a sense world famous. I mean, I was just reading something the other day. Someone was saying, I don't know if I agree or not, but they were saying perhaps Arvo Pärt is the world's greatest living composer.
Wow.
That's interesting.
I have to say, as Nick and Xavier know, my opinion of modern classical music, maybe just out of my love for the classics, is I don't quite enjoy it as much, with the exception of Pärt, because I think at the Charlottesville Symphony was last year. They played
with
a piece
university singers,
by Pärt.
Da Pacem Domine.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I said, this is incredibly good. Like, this is the type of, like, a modern composer that just spoke to me in a way that sometimes some of the others do not. I think he blends beautifully a lot of things I love about some of the older classical traditions with definitely you can tell that he is a 21st century composer. You wouldn't mistake him for Mozart.
Yeah.
But
part of it is because I think when we're introduced to classical music, we're obviously introduced to the classic first, right? Especially the 4 Bs, right? So, and then I think what happens if from early on you get introduced to the Mozarts and the Beethovens and the Bachs, etc., then when you get to love that music, and then when you start moving, at least the same thing happened to me. When you start moving into modern music, it's like, it's just not as good. You know what I mean? And so you just keep going back to the tradition. At least me, I keep going back to the tradition.
I've heard that from others. I get that. On the other hand, I find there's so many interesting things happening in newer music, and also a much greater diversity, right? Who is an actual composer? We've expanded that, right? So now we have all these tremendous women composers, and now we're listening more to minority voices, which is also, we did this Hailstork world premiere a couple years ago with the Oratorio Society.
And from totally different parts of the world now.
He's an African-American Virginia composer. He's he's also a great living composer. And so it kind of expands that idea of what is a musician. Yeah. But I also, it is hard to be Bach. I get that too.
So I also have a question. So when you put these events together, right? Do they tell you how many singers you need in order to do one of these pieces, or sometimes you may not have enough? In other words, let's say you need like 20 female voices and 20 male voices, or vice versa, or different numbers. Do they tell you, or you as a director decides how many voices and different?
So with a chorus, the good news is, it's not quite as specific. So as Christine was saying, we're a community chorus.
Right.
And we're almost, 90 right now?
We're 90 voices.
Yeah, 90 voices, which is great. So you want it to be, if you have talented people, you want to open the door.
Of course.
Right. So it's not like an orchestra where it says, well, there's a first oboe part and a second oboe part, and then you just have that, right?
Exactly.
It's more like the string section where you could have a sliding number. And in this case, it's really a matter of, I try to choose repertoire that we can do well. And the Rossini's definitely works well with big chorus. It's interesting you mentioned this because for the Arvo Pärt, I did trim it down. What would you say, 30, 35 singers?
35.
To make it a more chamber sound, because that is clearly his aesthetic.
Okay.
And it wouldn't have, So it's almost the opposite. It's not, do we have enough? It's, in one case, we had too many.
Okay.
But mainly, I try to program so that the whole chorus is singing
Can participate.
most of the time.
Yeah. That made sense.
Yeah.
That made sense.
Yeah.
So, how did you decide to do both? Like, what sort of drew you to these two pieces? Obviously, you have the contrast of styles and ages.
Well,
what about these two in particular?
I think so. Programming, and Christine and I have talked about this, she's only been with us 1 year, but she's a fantastic executive director. Programming is challenging.
I would think so.
And especially when you have multiple groups, which I do in town, which is a blessing, but there's a lot of music to figure out who's doing what. We just did this considering Matthew Shepard with University Singers, and now we have this coming up. I did want to get two pieces that were contrasting, and these are very much so. Pieces, I try not to over-program. Do we have enough time in the rehearsal schedule? It's very important to not just get the notes kind of right, but really make music, and I think that's important. Honestly, this is a show where you talk to businesses, so I'm going to say something extremely practical. Sometimes budget is a factor.
Okay.
Right? So the cost for instrumentalists and soloists in this piece is not particularly high. And whereas if we did Beethoven Missa Solemnis, that's a huge orchestra, and it's going to cost some money.
Yep.
So sometimes you also combine the artistic with the practical.
With what you can actually
Right. I mean, you could speak more to the
For
dollars and cents side of that, but
Or certainly at least the anticipating, when we look ahead and plan the next season, or is this concert with orchestra or a smaller ensemble, or is this one with soloists, so we can make sure we balance our budget at the end of that.
Absolutely. No, which made sense.
Is there any sense of what the community really likes? In other words, do you get a feel for, the community really likes this type of music, and then do we want to do more of that?
that's a great question. I mean, certainly Christmas at the Paramount is very popular.
That's an easy
right?
one.
But I think the group loves to sing big works with orchestra or just big works. I mean, you saw the Rachmaninoff. I mean, and look at the audience. That was almost 1,000 people for the two groups. And there's no it's just the voice, like you said. They love big works, and that was the first time that whole piece had been done in the Charlottesville area. So I think they do like to hear from this group bigger works, and that's the group is like a symphony chorus, like you would find in a larger city.
Oh, absolutely. And the quality of it. That's the beautiful part. I mean, it's so beautifully done.
They're doing well. It's growing, yeah. I don't know. What would you add to that? That's certainly the case.
Yeah. I don't really have any more comment on that. I think that pretty well sums it up.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, I think that there are a lot of, as a famous radio announcer said once, I think it was Garrison Keillor. There is grandeur in small things. Sometimes a 4-minute piece can just change your world and blow your heart and mind.
Absolutely.
But we do, I think, tend sometimes toward bigger works. And, we've done some great collaborations. I know you have our other artistic partners in here sometimes.
Charlottesville Opera.
Right, so we have collaborated on Bernstein, Candide, and Verdi with Charlottesville Opera. In fact, 2 of the 4 soloists on this concert are people that we worked with as emerging artists at Charlottesville Opera last summer. So there's a connection. And we've worked, we've collaborated with Charlottesville Ballet and, as I say, the University Singers and the Charlottesville Symphony, and the list goes on.
And I know Leanne gave you a shout out because they're very excited to be able to have the chorus in Tosca upcoming.
It's important. And it's great having Leanne, who is a
there's
partner.
Some overlap. Some of our chorus members are in the Charlottesville Opera Chorus. The Ting Pavilion event
July 1st.
The festival that will be or many of our singers will be part of that as well. So
that's exciting because that'll be a first-time event.
And the collaboration is just fantastic to see. So, tell us a little bit about. Go ahead. Oh, you're excited.
Who do I talk to about getting Carmina Burana here in Charlottesville? Who do I have to talk to?
You got the right people. We did it in 2007 with University Singers and the Symphony.
You moved too late. That doesn't count. 1 year later.
When did you come?
2008.
Well, it's
actually, about due then.
I'll say, I don't think it's wrong to say, it's on our docket. We've been in conversation with the ballet, actually, Charlottesville Ballet, about doing it in the reasonably near future because it was a piece that was danced. Originally, so.
And Sarah from Charlottesville Ballet.
Sarah and Emily are.
And Emily, they're fantastic.
So.
They will do a great job if that comes to pass.
So keep your fingers crossed.
Okay, we'll do that.
Keep your fingers
Stick around.
Don't go anywhere. Don't leave Charlottesville.
Don't leave Charlottesville.
for a while. Tell us a bit about because I know it's going to take place, so it's going to be May 5th at St. Thomas Aquinas Church. Right. Tell us a bit about the choice of location. I mean, going there, I love it, but what sort of says, all right, let's do it here?
Yeah. We actually, when we did the Rachmaninoff last year, we didn't think that we'd be back there so soon. But after that experience, it was pretty clear that was the only place that we wanted to do these 2 pieces. It's just acoustically, ideally, set up, and the space is just beautiful. We are offering a live stream again of the event, so fantastic. That is something that anyone who's not going to be in town for the concert or can't make it for whatever reason in person can purchase access to the live stream to watch that at their convenience. But really the best experience is going to be sitting in that sanctuary. It's just not just from the musical standpoint, the sound, but the aesthetics of the space. Just will create an overall experience, I think, that is not to be missed. And our soloists are fantastic. They're going to I'm so excited to hear it all come together.
I agree with that completely. I mean, you try to get to know all the spaces in your town, right? So we have Old Cabell Hall, and we have the Paramount, and First Pres Church is a beautiful place. And as you know, St. Thomas recently tore the church to the ground and rebuilt. And the result is, it's a very beautiful sacred space.
It is.
And I'm friends. Father Walter over there he came from New York City, and he used to do artistic events at his church up there, so he understands the idea, that intersection with the arts, and so this is a nice opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think there's something too special about hearing, because you always talk about sometimes, you go to Europe and you can see great works of art in a church where they were originally put, and you get that sense, all right, this is where the artist intended it to be. And not that it wouldn't be beautiful in a museum, but everything comes to this and so to hear the all-night vigil or to hear a mass in a place where it traditionally would have taken place. Not that it wouldn't be sound beautiful in a music hall,
concert hall,
but to say, this is where this might well have been performed at one point. Yeah. And just to I think you sense that there's just a fit there. And it's going to be interesting to see that contrast of how each of them fits differently, each piece fits differently in that space.
That's a great idea, right? Because music is framed by the spaces you present it in. So, yeah.
It does. I am just so excited.
That's going to be
fun.
This is going to be great.
It's going to be amazing, and having, as someone who's gone to the holiday concert so many times and love it, especially them. I went the one year when the little kid didn't even wait for the microphone. He just belted 5 golden rings.
The family holiday concert.
Yeah, the family holiday concert.
That's right. Wasn't even close to the
normally
microphone.
Normally they know the microphone, but the little kid just goes 5 golden rings.
That's great. You want people that are eager to sing in the world, right?
So I love that. It was just so much fun, and the all-night vigil last year is just stupid. I can't recommend enough just the quality of
thank you.
Of the singers there and the way
it really is
you
amazing. It's top notch. To think that they're all volunteers. It's incredible.
It is amazing.
It's incredible.
It is. And
do you ever get anybody that goes to you and says, I want to sing, and then has no experience in reading music, but their voice is great, and you sit there and go,
you kind of discover it.
How do I work with that?
That is a great question. I guess I'm on air. I'll have to answer it publicly.
No, you don't have.
You don't have to.
No, I've over the years I have heard a gazillion auditions, and I've heard everything from sublime. I mean, truly sublime, to I don't show it on my face, but don't call us. We'll call you. And I think the challenge is you have to find the right mix of talents you're looking for, right? It's the voice, but it's also a certain level of musicianship, an ability to learn music. In this group, we learn pretty fast. So reading is a pretty useful skill.
Exactly.
And so I think what I would do is if someone was borderline, I would try to take them. If someone is needing more work, really work on their musicianship, I would actually reach out and recommend that they work with a coach for a little while and grow their musicianship a little and then come back and re-audition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which makes total sense. You get to the point at which you're then able to participate.
Right. Yeah. Because education is a process of stretching, right? You want to stretch people a little beyond their level, but if you make that stretch too far, too fast, then it won't go.
It will start or be discouraged.
The foundation is not quite there yet.
Yeah.
No, that makes complete sense. Makes complete sense. Got a lot of people. Shannon Donovan is watching. Holly Slon says, "Hi, Michael and Christine."
Hello, dear.
Did Strategic watching. Nate Wilson, Courtney Davis, John Blair watching the show this morning. So you guys have definitely a lot of fans,
which is what we
expected.
expected.
So important thing, just it is you guys. I know you're supported in part by donations. People. So where can people go to support? To learn more and most importantly to get tickets for May 5th. It's in the evening.
Yes.
I believe.
8 o'clock.
8 p.m.
Yes.
So you'd have time to have dinner and then go to St. Thomas Church. And so where do people get tickets for that as well?
People can purchase tickets online from our website, www.oratoriosociety.org. They can also get the phone number off our website and give the office a call if they would would like to purchase over the phone. We'll also have a box office at the door.
Okay, excellent.
But
Yeah.
there are 2 tiers of seating, so sort of the premier seating up front and center.
That is in
Those are
advance.
going really quickly
Yeah.
online, and then there'll be lots of general seating behind that.
Yeah, do not do what I did last year. I found out about it too late and didn't get the middle seat. Like, it was still fantastic. But I'm like, dang, I would have loved to have been in that middle seating.
Fair
So,
enough.
and you know what, don't wait till the door, because
No, that's
it
right.
was packed last year.
Yeah.
So I would say get your tickets as early as you can.
Yep.
You know, and people can indeed donate and support the work that you're doing, correct?
Yes. Also on our website, there's details and a button to donate. We would love to see some new contributions that help keep the music going and support our next season. We have some fantastic plans.
Yeah, we haven't
Speaking
revealed
of-
it yet, but we have some big, big
We'll just have to have you both
Just
back.
have to
Reveal
have
it.
us
Oh,
back.
yeah.
and
You can do
we'll
the
let you
reveal.
know a little more.
The reveal, yeah.
In fact, there'll be a little preview or a little sneak peek of what that looks like in the program for the May 5th concert. So if you
nice.
come,
That's right.
you can get a peek at what's coming up next year.
Oh, wonderful. I'm
Looking
I'm
forward
so
to that too,
excited.
already.
I know, exactly. But think about it, if you all donate, you can hopefully help one day make and Xavier's dream of coming to Verona come true. Just donate to help Xavier's dream.
You got to write down,
It'll
this
be like
is
the,
only
the Make-A-Wish.
for.
Yeah, the Make-A-Wish thing. You have to make Xavier's wish come true and donate to the Oratorio Society of Virginia. Michael, Christine, this has been so much fun.
It's
Thank
been
you
a lot
both
of
so
You
fun.
much
guys are a
for
joyful
Fantastic.
pair.
Thank you.
No,
It's
we
fun to be
loved
with
having
you.
you on. It was a great pleasure, and we look forward to having you back, hopefully to talk about next season, what people can look forward to.
Fantastic.
Looking forward to
Thanks
that,
again.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank
So good. Thank you. Thank you. Take
All
care.
the best on May 5th.
Yep.